Why first impressions are so powerful. Imagine meeting someone for the very first time. Within just a few seconds, your brain has already formed an opinion. You may think they seem friendly, confident, trustworthy, intelligent, or perhaps the opposite. What's surprising is that this process often happens before a meaningful conversation even begins. How can people make judgments so quickly? And why do first impressions have such a powerful influence on our relationships, careers, and everyday lives? Today we'll explore the fascinating psychology behind first impressions and learn how they shape the way we see others. Let's begin. Whether we realize it or not, first impressions play a major role in human interaction. They influence friendships, job interviews, business opportunities, romantic relationships, and even everyday conversations. The human brain is constantly processing information. To make sense of the world quickly, it often creates immediate judgments. These judgments aren't always accurate, but they can be surprisingly influential. Understanding how first impressions work can help us communicate better, build stronger relationships, and avoid common psychological mistakes. Let's take a closer look. 1. Your brain loves quick decisions. The human brain processes enormous amounts of information every second. To save time and energy, it relies on shortcuts. Instead of carefully analyzing every person we meet, the brain makes rapid assessments. Thousands of years ago, this ability helped our ancestors survive. Quick judgments help determine whether someone appeared friendly, dangerous, or trustworthy. Even though modern life is different, our brains still use similar processes. When meeting someone new, the brain gathers information from appearance, facial expressions, posture, tone of voice, and behavior. Within moments, an impression begins to form. The problem is that quick judgments aren't always accurate, but they are often powerful. 2. Appearance influences perception. Like it or not, appearance affects first impressions. People notice clothing, grooming, facial expressions, and body language almost immediately. This doesn't mean appearance determines character. Of course it doesn't. But appearance often influences perception. For example, someone who appears organized and confident may be perceived more positively before they even speak. That's why first impressions often involve both conscious and unconscious judgments. The important lesson is not to become obsessed with appearance. It's to recognize that presentation communicates information, whether we intend it to or not. 3. Body language speaks before words. Long before words make an impact, body language is already communicating. A smile can create warmth. Eye contact can signal confidence. Open posture can make someone appear approachable. On the other hand, crossed arms, poor eye contact, or nervous movements can influence perception in different ways. People often underestimate how much communication happens without speaking. In many situations, body language shapes emotional impressions more than actual words. That's why becoming aware of your nonverbal communication can be incredibly valuable. 4. The halo effect. One of the most fascinating psychological concepts is something called the halo effect. The halo effect occurs when one positive quality influences how we perceive other qualities. For example, if someone appears friendly, we may also assume they are intelligent, competent, or trustworthy, even if we don't have enough information to know for sure. The opposite can happen as well. A single negative impression may unfairly influence our overall judgment. This psychological shortcut can lead to inaccurate conclusions, which is why it's important to remain open-minded. First impressions matter, but they don't always tell the whole story. 5. Confidence makes a strong impression. Confidence is often one of the most attractive qualities people notice. Confident individuals tend to appear comfortable with themselves. They communicate clearly, they make decisions more easily, and they often create a sense of trust. However, confidence should not be confused with arrogance. Arrogance pushes people away. Confidence attracts them. True confidence comes from self-respect and authenticity, not from trying to appear superior. People generally respond positively to those who are secure without being boastful. 6. First impressions can be wrong. Although first impressions are powerful, they are not always accurate. People have bad days. They feel nervous. They may be tired, stressed, or distracted. A person who seems quiet may actually be thoughtful. A person who appears confident may be insecure, and someone who seems unfriendly may simply be shy. This is why giving people time and opportunity to reveal their true character is important. The best relationships often develop beyond first impressions. Wise people remain curious rather than judgmental. 7. Why first impressions are hard to change. Once an impression forms, the brain often looks for evidence to support it. This is related to a psychological tendency called confirmation bias. If we believe someone is kind, we notice behaviors that support that belief. If we believe someone is unreliable, we may focus on mistakes that confirm our judgment. As a result, first impressions can become surprisingly persistent. Changing them often requires repeated experiences that challenge the original perception. This is one reason why first impressions deserve attention. They can influence future interactions in powerful ways. 8. How to create a positive first impression. The good news is that creating a positive first impression doesn't require perfection. Simple actions often make the biggest difference. Smile genuinely, maintain comfortable eye contact, listen attentively, speak clearly, show respect, and be present in the conversation. People often remember how you made them feel more than the exact words you said. Kindness, confidence, and authenticity leave lasting impressions. Trying to impress everyone rarely works. Being genuine often does. 9. Look beyond first impressions. While it's useful to create positive first impressions, it's equally important not to become trapped by them. The most meaningful understanding comes from spending time with people, listening to their stories, observing their actions, and allowing relationships to develop naturally. Character reveals itself over time. The first chapter of a story rarely tells you everything, and the same is true for people. The best approach is balance. Respect first impressions, but don't let them become permanent judgments. Story example. Imagine two candidates interviewing for the same job. The first arrives confident, smiling, and well-prepared. The second arrives nervous and quiet. Many interviewers may initially favor the first candidate, but after deeper conversations, they discover the second candidate possesses exceptional skills and experience. This example shows both the power and limitations of first impressions. They matter, but they don't tell the entire story. Conclusion. Today we learned that first impressions are powerful because the brain naturally seeks quick understanding. Appearance, body language, confidence, and psychological shortcuts all influence how we perceive others. But we also learned something equally important. First impressions are not always accurate. People are more complex than a few seconds of observation. The best approach is to create positive first impressions while remaining open-minded about others, because meaningful relationships require both awareness and patience. As we finish today's video, here's a question to think about. Have you ever been completely wrong about someone after your first impression? Most of us have. And that's a reminder that every person has a deeper story waiting to be discovered. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone interested in psychology and human behavior. Thank you for watching. And remember, first impressions may open the door, but true understanding comes from what happens afterward. See you in the next video.